know I had to have him. If you've been listening to Queen Pin and the Wingman, you know this is the ultimate wingman, Mr. Rich Celenza. Oh my gosh, of course, you have to put all the little squishy cutie things in the way. So yes, okay. And of course, if you're not listening to Queen Pin and the Wingman, you are missing out. Okay, so Rich, we
Yes.
met, oh my gosh, like what? It's been what, 2 months now?
It's probably been a lot longer. We just forget how time flies. We didn't even start this till like 3 months or a few months. It's probably like I don't know, 4 or 5 months, 4 months maybe.
Okay. And you reached out to me and you were just like, hey, let's do this. And I was just like, okay, I don't know, but we made it work. You started out as a guest on my show.
Yeah, someone sent me your information. I don't go on a lot of people's podcasts. Not
And you just reached out. That I think that was the crazy part, was you reached out and you were just like, oh my gosh. So we talked about everything from He Who Shall Not Be Named Ever on my podcast. And to see, I like it because you're used to following rules now. I still have the problem with getting everyone in the fam clan to say the S word when we're talking about snow. So you follow rules very well.
I forgot his name already. I'd hate to say it. I forget people's names, so it works perfectly for you.
But oh my gosh. So of course I couldn't have a 500th episode without you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I mean, this is unbelievable. And we have better lighting and we have better visuals. Your hair keeps disappearing, but that's a mystery in itself. Which
I know. I think it's just the background, the crazy background. So remember, guys, this is like, I don't normally do the camera thing. You've probably seen me a couple of times. If you're watching Queen Pin and the Wingman on YouTube, of course you're seeing me, and I'm just finding out that I'm like blurry and dark. But no, yes, I am a real person. And of course, if you see me on Instagram, which I had people like hitting me up, believe it or not, Rich, I had people hitting me up on Instagram going, oh my gosh, why have you not done video before? So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, we had this okay, Rich, we've had this conversation. I am coming out of the box slowly. It's kind of like a turtle here.
Yeah. Well, I keep getting yelled at, I told you, because of I'm clear and you're dark and everyone thinks I'm
right.
you out. And I'm like, it's been hysterical. Believe me, they want to see you more than me. I could assure you that much. So.
So, oh my gosh. So what is going on in the world of modeling, traveling, and everything, just appearance and image wise? What's going on with you?
Well, I think modeling, I haven't been involved with a lot of that lately, or for a while after writing my book, but I do think COVID kind of had a hard hit at that. I interviewed a friend of mine, Ray, who's I think one of the oldest agencies in the country. Is going on his 40th year, but he's in Kansas City. And I think they're starting to finally start to do more, obviously, with that, because let's face it, New York has been a mess as far as just, the pandemic. So
well, one of the crazy things is I keep hearing, and I don't know if you've heard this, where we used to do in-person casting calls. A lot of casting calls are not being done in person, and especially if they're doing online jobs.
Yep.
Sometimes they don't know what these models actually kind of really look like until they show up to a job.
Yes. So I don't know if you watched this year's what the hell is it called? I can't even believe what I forgot. Give me a second here. I'm losing my mind here. On Project Runway. So I have a friend in LA I used to hang out with, Coral Costello. Okay. Actually, I hung out with other designers. And she was one of the final 4 women that got to the finals in New York. So you kind of got behind the scenes of what was going on with that. And she's wonderful. Honestly, she was in the top 2, I'd say, from the looks of it. She was the only one in the finals that got a standing ovation from her own team.
Wow.
So I got a really good glimpse of that. And I've been a huge fan of hers. I used to go to all her shows if I could, even when I was traveling. And she's amazing. And As far as fashion and stuff goes, I was in the last year and a half, I was creating my own clothing line at Celenza Wear. It's a clothing line. It's kind of fashionable athleisure wear. I want to kind of take a step higher than even Lululemon.
Please, okay, whatever you do, please don't go Lululemon. I watched.
No, it's not going to be that at all. But
Okay, please don't. Like, I don't want to have to worry about, women at having parties and trying to hawk off, leggings.
No, let me see if I got the images here. So I was creating, it's kind of a futuristic athletic wear. I could show you a picture of it real quick. So anyways, I was working on that and for a long time, like a year and a half. And then as soon as I started to get the prototypes in, I got my logos down. It just did not go my way. I did not like the quality of it. Let me go on my phone here. But it's really the future of athleisure wear. I want to combine fashion with being comfortable, I guess you could say, because I think that's going to be the future no matter what. So let me see here. One of my logos, if you could see it. El nome dice tutto, like the name says it all. So here's one of my logos. And
nice.
It's kind of cool, and then I did here's another one because I love coffee. So, like that would be maybe another logo for it as well. I based it off my name at Celenza because that means excellence in Italian. So, and then I was actually, here's some more actually, if you want to talk about that. But I tried putting,
cool.
It was coming out really cool. A lot of stuff. I worked on it a long time. And I first wanted to put clothes on robots, kind of like Star Wars for this stuff. So I had graphic artists do it. It looks horrible. So I started to just take the logos and put them on the cyborgs themselves, and I really liked it. But to make a long story short, as far as fashion or modeling, that's what I've been doing. I've been helping clients with a lot of fashion as well lately, because a lot of them either gained weight and don't like the way they look, so they want to buy new clothes that they're heavier, or they want to lose weight after the pandemic, want to get more fit, so they have to go shopping. So,
well, hey, listen, just be comfortable. That's always my thing to it. Be comfortable where you are, what you're doing, everything. Just be comfortable. I mean, it's just like, whoa. And I think everybody had the COVID, what do you want to call it? The COVID 20, where you had that gain that 20 pounds for no reason.
Yeah. A lot of people.
So, yeah.
Yeah. If you were kind of out of shape, you got a lot of times in worse shape. I said a lot of times. And then, but if you were in good shape or you were very healthy or wanted to be healthy when the pandemic hit, you want to get healthier, I think a lot of times. So I think it kind of went two different ways with that, because if you were healthy or you wanted to stay healthy, you were kind of afraid you were going to get sick and you wanted to prevent that. But if you kind of were, eating a lot of junk food, fast food, you like sitting on the couch or not working out, that gave you an opportunity to do it even more. So
yeah. So that was always my thing. I was like, oh my gosh, no, we're not doing that. So
yeah.
And one of the craziest things that got me was companies. Most people don't understand, companies were giving away gift cards. I got more gift cards to go to CVS during quarantine than I knew what to do with.
Really?
Yeah. I was just like, at one point, I remember standing online and I was just like, okay, note that I have like $50 worth of gift cards and they're all in $5 increments.
Well, you're the queen pin. So is this because you do this so much, you're getting so much more than others?
No, it's not that. What happens is I have a lot of let's say rebate apps and stuff that I do.
Yeah.
So normally they were giving away, $5, $10 here. So you'd go to the store, and on a regular basis, you may say on a good day you have like $20.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like every 2 days, some of these companies were like, oh, let's get this rebate. I want to give you $5 to find out what you think about lollipops. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I think New York too, because I'm in Florida and everything was really, for the most part, open. I mean, we had a month there or whatever, we were quarantined, but the truth was, like, everything was open.
Yeah, you guys were like the hot spot at that point. Like, people, as soon as everyone could fly. Everyone was going down to Miami. That's all we heard was like, I'm going to Miami. I'm going to Orlando. I'm going. So
Our
you were like
prices,
the hot spot.
our prices went up a lot.
Really?
Besides real estate. Oh my, well, the inflation, but a lot of things here because the demand was huge. We also had a lot of things open up here during the pandemic, like a Portillo's, which is a very well-known restaurant out of Chicago, a chain. We had White Castles, and they're like some of the White Castles, the biggest in the country, but we had all these things still rocking and rolling. The last thing we were getting that I saw was deals. If anything, everything was kind of going up in price. It was hard to get seating or hard for reservations. It's still really busy here. I got to go to a party possibly in Naples this next weekend, and the cheapest hotel rooms are $400 or $500 a night.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy here. So many people out here because it's season 2. Everybody wants to be here in the winter. So I don't know how many New Yorkers move here, how many Canadians, how many people from Boston, Philly, California. I mean, I'd say 1 out of 2 out of every license plate I see is from another state right now. So,
but I could see that because it seemed like as soon as our governor announced that we were going into quarantine, everyone ran. Everyone that could run ran.
Yeah.
And it was getting to the point where, and I don't even think people outside of New York know this, where people that had 2 homes were actually selling their homes or their apartments, their condos here in the city, and just going and living at that summer home because it's cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a lot of people moving there that even their taxes, say they sold their home in California, right, or in New York or whatever, if they, their taxes that they were paying were astronomical. So their mortgage is even cheaper than just their taxes besides the mortgage, which sounds kind of crazy. So you start to put things in perspective. And I think Florida was one of the best hidden secrets in the country. I've said it. I've been coming here since I was 5. I moved at 18. I've lived in San Diego for 7 years, but after traveling so much throughout the United States and North America, it's a really unbelievable place to live. And it was really affordable. It still is on the not hot spots like South Miami, Naples, Boca, Pompano, Orlando. They're not cheap. But if you get in the outskirts of other areas, especially the Panhandle, even on the outskirts of Jacksonville, Northern Florida, or maybe the East Coast, it's affordable. Especially when you start comparing New York and Philly, Boston, the East Coast, or Chicago, or the West Coast. If you want to start saying even, LA, San Francisco, it's going to be unbelievably affordable. So.
Oh yeah, because I don't know if I shared this with you, where this woman is actually in a fight with her landlord now, and in 3 months' rent, she owes him $9,000.
Yeah.
For a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah. It's crazy. A lot of people weren't paying rent in Florida either. Don't kid yourself. I think a lot of people were, they had that opportunity to not have to pay rent. And then they got, all these, and then they were able to leave. And I don't think they even can put it on your credit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. During a moratorium, they can't put it on your credit. Like they can't, but here is the loophole, which most people don't know. Because a lot of people were saying, okay, people are still getting evicted. So the loophole is if you did anything within that wasn't in the parameters of your lease, your landlord could still put you out.
Yeah.
Then the other thing was, because during the moratorium, you were supposed to be paying something, even though you didn't pay.
Right.
They had the right, or have the right, to demand the rent paid in full. And the grandfathered laws pre-moratorium actually come into play.
Yeah. They knew a lot of people were collecting stimulus. A lot of people were collecting unemployment, some making more than even when they worked. And then they refused to pay rent or refused to pay any of their bills. And you could tell by the malls, at least in Florida, a lot, they're all shopping at Gucci, Louis, they're at Nordstrom, they're at Bloomingdale's, and there's all these lines at Florida Mall. And I'm thinking, and I know people myself that refuse to pay rent, and we're living an incredible life in Florida at this point in time. Even their mortgage kind of didn't want to pay their mortgage, and they knew the market was kind of hot with real estate, so they can go a few months without paying and then eventually sell it. So why put any money up front now and keep paying a mortgage when I know I'm going to, put it up for sale and until I actually sell it. So the market was that hot. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
Florida was on its own game here with a lot of people just doing a lot of things.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. So
So
other than the fact that you get a lot of sun and we've been getting bipolar weather, because one day it literally went from I think almost 60 or 70 degrees.
Mm.
And then the next couple of days we were down in the single digits.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, you at least your weather's been stable. We've been trying to figure out if we should be going to the beach wearing shorts or digging out of the Planet Hoth.
Yeah, we've only had a couple weeks that honestly were pretty unstable, but they're not bad. I mean, it dropped down to like the 40s. For the most part, we've still been averaging in the 70s, and at night, high 50s, low 60s. But we had a couple weeks where it's been a little chilly, but it's usually with Florida, January and February are dicey. But I'm telling you, for Florida's are the best winters in North America. I've always said it's warmer than California, warmer than Vegas, Arizona. They're really usually pretty consistent. High 50s or low 60s at night, and usually low 70s, even mid 70s or high 70s, low 80s for the whole winter for the most part, if you look at the average.
Wow. So, okay, how is your podcast going? Because you have a podcast called The Rich Celenza Show, or what the F is Rich talking about? I don't know. I always love saying that. So, yeah.
I kind of flip-flop on that all the time. I'm coming up actually, I think soon on 1,000 episodes, but a lot of those weren't interview style podcasts. A lot of them were me doing different things too. I do 10-minute rants or 5-minute rants. I've done a lot of interviews as well. I've even had you on there, but we got to get a good one of you. Actually, we kind of did a rough one. You weren't even on camera yet, right?
I wasn't on camera yet. So hi, everybody.
Yeah, so we got to get you on camera, and I'll throw that. Even though it's your 500th episode, I'm going to share it on my page. I don't care, but I won't say it's not a podcast. Of course
you are. Of course you are. You know why you're sharing this on your page, and I'm going to put this out there you can redeem yourself and prove that you're not hiding me.
I'm going to do it tomorrow, I think, because I am so sick of I got hit up finally. I told you by my father, when your father calls you up and says, what the hell are you doing to this poor girl? You're darkening her. You're making her disappear and you're all clear. This is bad. This is, yeah.
No, he's not been hiding me. Okay, Mr. Celenza, he's not been hiding me. It's just been kind of technical and glitchy, and when things go into the matrix, sometimes they don't come out the way they go in.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I love doing my podcast. I just started it almost 3.5, 4 years ago. I didn't know what I was doing with it at first. I also do videos where I talk, but I really like doing audio podcasts, just the 10-minute rants, to be honest with you. Those are my favorite giving advice, but I don't want to get redundant with that either. I love having guests on like yourself. But that also takes a lot of time and effort. People don't realize scheduling it, recording it, putting up all the content, getting all the written information. I kind of like what me and you are doing, because we're building a chemistry too. Because a lot of times I have people on there, some like to go on long rants. They get long-winded and they don't know how to have a podcast. They're just on pitch mode a lot of times. But
okay, here's a little secret. Here is a little secret, and I will divulge this, and only because it's you, Rich. I don't write down any questions anymore. I never write down questions. So other than pretty much asking you what your name is, what you do, and why you're here, that is pretty much all that I'm going to ask you.
I love
everything else is on the fly. And one of the craziest things I've ever had to do was, I don't know if you listened to that episode, where I had two sleep experts on. One is a sleep therapist and the other one is the sleep doctor. But the sleep doctor actually came on to talk about relationships and had no clue, of course, what he was talking about. So 5 minutes in, I literally, and this is the first time I'm telling the story on air, I literally say to him, this is not working.
Right.
We have to pivot. And he's like, well, we can do it another day. And I said, no, we're not going to do this another day. I don't have time.
Mm.
We're going to do it now. And he says, well, what do you mean? I said, you're a sleep doctor, right? I said, we're going to talk about sleep medicine.
Mm.
And I literally had to come up with questions out of Lord knows where, because I was prepared to talk about relationships and not talk about sleep medicine. I didn't even know what to ask about sleep medicine. I was literally, and thank goodness I wasn't on camera then, because I'm literally on one device Googling questions about sleep medicine, what I could ask this guy.
Right.
And like talking to him at the same time. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that about you. I don't like to write down a lot of questions either. A lot of times I will give them an opportunity to send me a few, but my podcast is about learning about things about that person that maybe no one ever learned before. Because a lot of times, a lot of these people do a lot of multiple podcasts, right? And if you watch
And
them,
that's what I hate.
yeah, it's the same pitch on each one of them. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's like I don't want the whole, I grew up in the mountains and the first time I milked a goat was this time. No, I don't want that. I want to know, what did this goat look like? What was the goat's name? Why was the goat named that? Who named the goat? When did you first see it?
Yeah. It's a lot of the same pitch. I struggled at the beginning. I went through this. I got bullied, or I failed, or I wasn't a good student, or I you know what I mean? I was uneducated. Then this happened in my life, and then I turned it around, and then before you know it, blah blah blah. Then the whole kind of, and then then they want to get into their whole thing, what they're doing now, and I get it, and their pitch on how they can help people, or how they make money, or how they can help you make money, how they can help you get healthy, which is wonderful. I definitely like that. But I think when you're going to get on my podcast, I want to laugh. I want to have fun. I want it to be entertaining. I do not want, people just start talking for 10 minutes about whatever product they have. I'm like, oh,
and that's my thing, because I spoke to you about that, and I was like, I just want people to feel like they're in a conversation with us. I want, and for those listening, this is always my goal, is for you to feel like you are part of the conversation. You are genuinely, and let's be real here. We all ear hustle. Mm-hmm. You're sitting at the table and you hear something interesting at the next table in the restaurant, and you're just like, oh, okay. So I want people to feel like that. So you're welcome to ear hustle at this point. And that's what I want people to feel like they're doing.
Yeah, I don't want an interrogation. I tell you all the time. And
no, it's never the Spanish Inquisition for me.
Yeah. That's why I love when I don't go, well, not a ton of people. Actually, I do get asked, I guess, to a certain point to be on a lot of podcasts, but I don't mean to be an asshole, but I'm like, how does this kind of fit in with what I do? Because a lot of guys, they're all, entrepreneurs, fine. But if they're like, everything's business, right? A lot of these guys are, it's about money. And I'm like trying to teach people how to like save money or live an incredible life affordably, right? So it's usually in health and wellness. You're like, okay, I have products and I want to do this. And I'm like, well, I'm anti-supplement. They're like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? I'm like, with fitness and working out, I'm like, listen, I'm also going to tell people you don't have to weight train and you don't have to work out necessarily to stay in decent shape. We can get you to a certain weight and hold that. We can do certain things to make you feel better. And,
right.
So, and I think that throws them a lot of times. So they're like, wait a minute. Yeah. I'm like, I help people. I think different. I just went through this actually with somebody who wanted to be on my podcast.
Really?
Said, Rich, you're gonna, I know what you're about. You're blah, 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 blah. And I said, no, I'm not about dieting. I said, I'm about portion control. The last thing I want you to do is change your eating habits. If you want to, but that's not what I'm about. Weight training. Oh, you've been weightlifting your whole life. It's all about training. I said, no, not at all. I want you to find what works best for you when it comes to fitness and wellness. It could be surfing. It could be walking. It could be cycling. It may be you not working out and you just eating better food and just living the life you choose to live. So same with fashion, wardrobe. I'm like, I'm not here to make you look like me or make you look like a celebrity.
Right.
Find the clothes you can afford at this point in time and look the best you can look. Not like anybody else. We got to create a blueprint that's specific for you. And then they're kind of So
yeah, I know a lot of people aren't. They're thrown off when you say that, and it's like, listen, I tell people all the time, my podcast is Switzerland. So I'm not going to go with what the status quo is. I'm not going to do any of that. So if you're, and I've even had, I don't know if you've had this because I know you haven't been doing a lot of uh, guests, but have you had where guests have sent you the questions you can ask them?
Yeah, that happened a lot at the beginning, and I told them I don't do that. I'm not here to pitch your product. I'm just telling. I'm having you as a guest because I'm interested in what you're doing, and I think my audience is, and I love giving them a voice. But I'm not here to promote your product. You want to do that? I have a thing called Pitch Me. You could pay me to do that, and then they freak out. I'm like, I'm not here. What am I? And I'm not looking to get a percentage off of your product because I don't want to mislead people. And this happens with a lot of people that sell supplements or different things regarding that. And I'm like, a lot of times you could tell in the conversation, I tell people, I'm not making any money off this, but I find you interesting. But I give people a voice that I think a lot of times they're shocked at because I'm like, listen, I'm anti-supplements. I just did this with a guy who was a vegan. He's an amazing guy. And he's like, even before we did the podcast, I said, I want you to know I'm anti-supplements. He's like, holy shit, Rich, I'm all anti-supplements too, with the exception of mine. But he goes, you're telling me this up front. And I said, listen, even on the podcast, I'm not here to tell you to try his product or that you should try it or not try it or whatever. It's going to work for you. I'm just letting people know who you are.
Right.
So,
and that's really what it is. That's really what it is. I mean, unfortunately, I did have the one guy that, for those that know, yes, I do have a couple of episodes that I did with guests that never, ever, ever came out. And one of them was the guy that wanted to go through his book chapter by chapter.
Can you imagine how nuts they are?
And he literally wanted to, and this is why this happened. I was like, oh no, Jesus. No. I was like, if I do this, people will never listen to my podcast again.
Yeah, it's about being natural. I can't take this phony bullshit, and they think that they're on
I can't either. I think this is why you and I get along. We're crazy for no reason.
I think I tell them all the time, this ain't an infomercial for you, not to be an asshole. This is a conversation. I'm a shit talker, right? I like to talk shit and have fun with people. And the other thing, a lot of times they'll come to me and say, Rich, you're gonna I'll shock them, even if they're in health and wellness, where they're like, no smoking. I'm like, are you nuts? I smoke cigars once in a while. My friends, you're not supposed to drink or do. I'm like, I'll drink a margarita and have a cigar. What are you talking about? Like, because you're in health and wellness, you're pitching this persona that I don't know what you're talking about. You can, I'm not saying to go on and start smoking a pack of cigarettes, but if having a cigarette with your friends is something you enjoy, enjoy it. Right. I'm just saying with one cigar once in a while. Yeah. I'm not asking to smoke a cigar every day or have drinks every day. But I think people, when it comes to health, wellness, or identity, think it's all or nothing. Right. It's kind of misleading, and it's a lie, and trying to make people, I think, too, feel guilty about a lot of things when you're selling products. I don't care if it's in health and wellness or whatever, like making them feel like you're the only answer. You're the
right.
I'm like, shut the hell up. Like,
yeah, that's, and I it's like, I know you want to sell your item, and I think the only person I've ever come across that I know that has an item out there or book out there, and he absolutely does not sell the book, Sean Harper.
Yeah.
He doesn't sell his book. His book is completely free to anybody online, but he makes his money from speaking engagements. And he's just like, but he's always wanted to, he wrote a book. The book is phenomenal. The book isn't that long.
Yeah.
But he gives it away.
Yeah. I give my book away a lot, or both of my books, but a lot of people will get me on a podcast, or they'll be on my podcast and they'll start asking me questions like, Rich, how did you do this? Or why did we do that? Or especially if I'm on their podcast, let's talk about each book. Let's talk about the program. I'm going to go into this. I'm like, dude, they're going to be sick of me in 15 minutes. I'm going to be talking like, who wants to hear a guy constantly be talking about, his books, his programs, his movies, his now his YouTube, his podcast. I look like an egotistical maniac. Why don't we just have a fun conversation about what you do?
And I think that was what shocked you. I think that was what shocked you when you and I first talked, because it was like, okay, we're not really, we talked about it, but we didn't talk about that per se.
No, I loved yours because it wasn't over communicating either. A lot of people want me on their podcast, or even if I don't know them, they want, how's this going to go? I want to make sure it's this way. How's the pace? How long is it? Like all these different things. I want these questions. Don't make me look like this, or can you only talk about this, or all these things where you just said, I said, hey, this queen pin, coupon queen pin. I'm like, this is so off the wall, because I got a directory of all the podcasts and I reached out to a few. And then we did ours, and my dog passed away actually right before we did yours. And I was devastated. And I didn't even want to be on video myself. And I said, is this on? I forgot about it. So our dog passed, and I was like at home, and my thing popped up. It says, you have a podcast at X amount of time. And I said, oh my God, let me run upstairs. And I said, is this video or audio? And you said, it's audio. And I said, this is wonderful. And I sat in my office and said, I have no idea what the hell we're going to talk about. Like, you didn't tell me. I said, this is perfect for me. Let's just talk about this. Let's just talk. And it was a great conversation. So
yeah. And I loved it because it was like, and for those of you that know, I keep telling people I am fluent in English, Spanish, sarcasm, and free. And it was like, when you could throw it back at me, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this guy.
It was crazy. I'm sure when you research, you're like, why is this lunatic want to be on my show?
No, but the funny thing is I research everybody, and I was like, okay, the model Bible. And I was like, and then I was like, you know what? This could be a pivot moment. So yeah, it honestly, it was a real pivot moment for me. It really was. And I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. And one of my subscribers that always listen, he's like, that rich guy, like, where'd you find him? And he's like, and then somebody was like, oh my gosh, you guys are going to take on He Who Shall Not Be Named. I was like, no, we're not going to. I said, but if it ever came to that, he could, because he's coming at it from a different standpoint. And I said, we actually agree. And I think one of the funniest things was even in our last, I think, Queen Pin and Wingman, when we both decided, like, we both said, we hate blind dates. We don't set people up on blind dates.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh. So yeah.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, you were about couponing and saving money, but you also talked about relationships. So yeah, when I reached out to you, I'm like, this is kind of, first of all, I love like African-American women and Hispanic, like you guys got an edge. Like my favorite actress is Angela Bassett, but I always have a really good chemistry, honestly, with Black or Hispanic women, just as far as talking. And maybe it's being in Chicago, and I like the attitude, the funny, you know what I mean? Where a lot of, I don't want to classify white women or whoever the hell, but I like that edgy thing about you guys. You don't give a shit. Like, you're going to say it the way it is. I'm going to.
It's okay. It's like in Spanish, we say, no tengo la pelo en la lengua, which means we don't have hair on our tongues.
Right. Yeah. So I think you were shocked when you talked to me, like I didn't give a shit. And maybe you thought, hey, this white, nerdy, bald guy, or maybe I don't know what.
No, it was so cool. I was just like, oh my gosh. No, it's one of those things, like, you know how they say when you meet your tribe, you recognize them?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh, I finally have a member to add to my fam clan. Yeah. Like, you know, so yeah, it was just like super cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. Yeah, and I tell my girlfriend, and I tell a lot of people, they ask, who's the queen, you know, the coupon queen pin or whatever. And I'll be like, that's my sidekick. They're like, how did this ever find out? I said, well, for years, even I have a co-host who's really cool, and we go back and forth, Robert Beninati and that stuff. But I've always said, I've been saying, you know, a lot of people only know me for trying to really help men. But I said, I'd love to help women, or just have a woman that has an audience. Just like I have a lot of guys that I'm kind of, you're like, a lot of men are seeing you, and I'm sure maybe more women on your end are maybe seeing you. And I wanted to kind of help women, if I could, show them a different perspective as far as handling relationships, men dealing with rejection or not, you know, getting thrown in the friend zone, dumped, ghosted. We all go through these things. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, but I was always working with men. And I said, you know what, I'd like to start having conversations with a woman about women and men, not just men, if that makes sense.
Right, right. And when we spoke about that, I was like, sure, I'm with it, because I think one of the things that even when you and I first spoke was the whole friend zone thing. And and anyone that knows me, I've always referred to the friend zone as the penalty box. But even you started making me look at it and say sometimes people need to be friend zoned.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, maybe it's not so much a penalty box, but kind of like a holding area.
Well, it's a growing stage, really. You can look at anything bad, but just because you're interested in someone doesn't mean they have to immediately be interested in you. And that goes both ways. Most men do not know that, though. Most men like who likes them. We've discussed that. So my thing is, if you're interested, even if you're interested in a woman, let's first figure out who the hell they are. You have to throw them in the friend zone. Let's not like just take them on a date, try to sleep with them. Even though a lot of men will be like, no, I want to sleep with them as quickly as possible. See how they are in bed. Kind of then we don't have to be phony from there on out. I'm like, I don't know why you got to be phony in any way, shape, or form. But my point is,
okay, here is for anyone watching this, anyone listening, here is one little tip for men that they usually don't understand. You sleep with a woman and it kind of opens an emotional floodgate that you don't want. And so with the whole sleeping with her on the first date, guess what? This is why I love, Rich, the way you do it with saying, let's go get to know them first. Go for coffee, go for, something little, go for a dessert, snack, whatever, go for a walk.
Yeah, hang out.
Because if you sleep with them on a first date, you're still in the getting to know them phase.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of crazy women out there.
Yeah. And men.
Everyone doesn't say, hey, you know what? I've been diagnosed as this, or I've been that, or I've been the other. And the thing is, remember, we send our representatives on a first date. So you're getting to know this person. And if you open a floodgate with someone who is, and let's put it this way, they don't have to have some sort of mental illness, but they just don't have to be emotionally prepared. And sometimes we're not even aware of our own emotions. So you open that up and now she's clinging to you. Let me tell you something. Ask firemen, and it's crazy, but ask firemen about women that they save. And all of a sudden she's clinging to him and he can't get rid of her.
Yeah.
And she's showing up at the firehouse every day, baking them cookies and doing all kind of crazy stuff. You open up a floodgate. So you have to be really careful with that.
I believe you 100%. And also a lot of times we make mistakes and that can destroy something, like men and women. A lot of times you may sleep with somebody on a first date or a third date where it was too fast. So now you're getting ghosted because they're embarrassed. Maybe they didn't prepare or they didn't perform or wasn't what they thought it was. It was a bad night. They both drank too much, maybe drugs. I don't know. Maybe they just got caught off guard. They felt guilty. So, if you know how to take your time, it's always going to be right, if that makes sense. Now, I'm not telling people you got to wait years or months and months and months, but there is the right way to kind of move into
right.
that phase, I think. And I just think most people want to rush it. Men and women.
They do.
One wants to rush it more than the other, especially men. Men are, I always said, they're they're the gas, the women are the brakes. But nowadays, I think with social media and dating apps and a lot of different things, men do have a lot of opportunity to meet a lot of different women that are a lot, I don't want to say easier, but are ready to put out a lot quicker, which, that can also lead to you getting pregnant, or you could deal with a crazy woman. You could catch a disease. There's a lot of things which a lot of men aren't thinking of.
Right.
So
that's true. But as you know, Rich, you and I can go on forever and ever and ever. And I have to thank you for being willing to be a part of my 500th episode, even though somebody's up to 1,000, not saying any name.
I'm only at 900 and something, but you did way more interviews. You destroy me on that level.
I just decided to do it faster. I mean, but you put out more content than I do. I will say that. So
You got a life. Just, yeah, you're busy. You're in New York. I'm a Floridian. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, maybe I do put up more content. I'm running out of juice. That's why I love doing the show with you, because it's something we are both kind of doing, which has kind of inspired me. I also been doing a football show with my buddy, Rich and Tail Talk Football. So I kind of been doing that with him as well, which is nice. And
Okay, speaking of football, what do you think of the new name of the Washington
oh my
team?
God.
What is like we went full out Gestapo on this. Who approved the Commanders?
Yeah. And did you hear the nickname they were saying about them too? How like, so a lot of times you have nicknames, like New York Jets, well, Jets, they always shorten the name, the Niners, 49ers, let's just call
Right,
it,
right.
right? They were calling the Commanders, right? The commies.
That like
I know.
it's not a hard leap.
I don't get how Redskins got, canceled and the Chiefs kept theirs. I don't like it's crazy. Like, what are these rules? And
I don't know. And we could talk about cancel culture all day, but it just makes it make it. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. That was crazy. I just like the Redskins. And then as soon as they were just the Washington football team, people I think were okay with that because nobody else was kind of like that. But now they throw another thing at them. So you have three identities now in a matter of a couple of years. And then even your logo, your whole identity changes after a while. I can't. The NFL has been around 100 years. I don't think the Redskins have been around that long. That's kind of like Chicago Bears and Green Bay. But still, you're talking decades, multiple decades of a brand that no one had a problem with. And I think even the Indians and all them, whoever, I heard they actually liked it being represented in the NFL.
Right. And I don't know. I don't know. If anyone wants to weigh in on this, let me know, because it seems so weird. It just seems very weird to me. And to me, Commanders is worse. Like, it sounds like they're going to take over something. Like they're going to be like an occupation. It's like sounds like really like take me to your leader.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But Rich, it has been amazing as always.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you for having me as a guest.